Hello and welcome to another beautiful day right here. It is Workers' Day, and of course, we are here to bring you to speed with the headlines for the day. My name is Ramsey Enoch, and of course, I have Antonia Nwokolo right here. Good morning, Antonia.
Good morning, Ramsey. Happy Workers' Day.
I wanted to say that.
Want
Happy
to say
Workers'
it in
Day.
unison.
Well, we are here to make workers happy, at least, even though it's Workers' Day and you're back home, you need to know what's happening around the world, especially in Nigeria. And that's the reason we're bringing you the headlines this morning. That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, quickly, let's go to the Daily Trust newspaper where we have this headline saying kidnappings. Out of school children worry northern governors. Kidnappings. Out of school children worry northern governors. Ipman threatens shutdown over 200 billion naira claims. Then the big story says May Day. NLC rejects 35% pay rise. Insist on living wage. Two riders to that story. Actually, the first rider says a committee yet to submit a report on minimum wage. The second rider says it's worst moment for workers. Who is saying this? The former vice president and a presidential aspirant for the People's Democratic Party. Who am I talking about?
Atiku.
You already know. Okay, still from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, we have some other headlines. This is going to be the last. Reps, NBA students reject electricity tariff hike. I take that again. Reps, NBA students reject electricity tariff hike. Well, it's everywhere. Details you can get on page 4. But then talking about the tariff hike, yesterday we heard that the reps are kicking against it and Nigerians are not smiling. And the worst part of it is that there is no power anywhere. I don't know who is in band A. Well, let me not go back to the bands right now because someone said it's like the band is a scam. I'm not the one that said that. All right, that's going to be the size of the headlines from here this morning. Over to you, Antonia.
All right, let's take a look at the headlines from this day newspaper. Just below the header, my economic reforms are not without challenges, Tinubu declares. That's on page 41. Over time, the president has come out to say his policies are meant for the good of Nigerians. His thoughts for Nigerians are of good and not of evil. We hope to see the positive effects of all of this because so far, what we've been experiencing has not been pleasant. Now, presidency, 36 states, private sector sign accord to transform Nigeria into $1 trillion economy by 2030. And the rider underneath says targets universal financial access and inclusion. The details of that's on page 4 of this day newspaper. Moving on, federal government approves 35% pay rise for civil servants. Pensioners get 28% increase. And we have some riders to that story. NLC wants salary raise extended to all. ASU seeks better welfare for workers. ILO says over 1 million workers may die annually from workplace hazards. And Mrs. Tinubu Obaseki hail workforce. Now, speaking about the number of estimated workers to die annually from workplace hazards. You know, today's Workers' Day. As much as we're clamoring for the minimum wage to be increased, it's also good to look into other aspects of workers, like providing a safe environment for workers to actually do their work where they would not be exposed to certain workplace hazards. So I think this is very good, talking about the ILO, speaking on this matter. Moving on, South governors meet in Yenagoa, lament poor state of power in the region, and they urge federal government to review the situation. That's on page 42 of this day newspaper, and that will be all from here.
All right, thank you very much, Antonia, for those headlines. Let's quickly look at the Leadership newspaper this morning and see where it's going to lead us. The first headline from here says, privatize NNPC to raise $20 to $30 billion revenue. Mogalo tells federal government. Well, NNPC to be privatized. Well, that's a big one. I don't know where we are right now. It was NNPC, now it's NNPCL, and we are yet to get what that actually came up for. Now, someone is suggesting privatization. Okay, let's see what's way forward next. All right, still coming from the leadership newspaper this morning. The kicker says a fuel crisis. Scarcity may worsen over 200 billion naira owed marketers. Scarcity may worsen, okay, over 200 billion naira owed marketers. Marketers have been owed, and two riders to that story, NNPCL blames speculators, say 30 days supply available. Lawmakers invite Tinubu Lokbobiri over scarcity. All right, you know who Lokbobiri is, and you know who Tinubu is. Well, I don't know, but then the power of the lawmakers. How powerful are the lawmakers? All right. Well, the interwoven nature of the three arms of government. Sometimes you see it playing out, not totally in favor of Nigerians. Sometimes, but originally, at least the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature are supposed to work together such that Nigerians will feel their effect. Lawmakers invite Tinubu Lokbobiri over fuel scarcity. And of course, northern governors brainstorm on security challenge. Details on page 3 of the leadership newspaper. Senate to rowdy session over sitting arrangements. I don't know. Well, this shouldn't be found amongst our lawmakers, but then this is where we found ourselves. And that's going to be the size of the headlines from the leadership newspaper this morning.
All right, let's take a look at the headlines on the Guardian newspaper. The first story here is actually the big story, and the kicker says, endless wait for living wage. Inflation, naira depreciation plunge Nigerians to lowest wage earners. And that story is on page 6. We'll have the picture story underneath, which talks about in March 2019, when the minimum wage was increased to 30,000 naira, inflation was at 11.25%. And now in March 2024, the minimum wage remains 30,000 naira, but inflation still in March was 33.20%. And we also have the Nigeria's minimum wage value dollar in dollar from 2019 to 2023, and the cost of 50 kg bag of rice from 2020 and January to April 2024. Take a look at, pick a copy of the Guardian newspaper and take a look at this to get more details. Now, Uzodinma appoints self-commissioner for lands. That's on news page 7. Oil marketers blame NNPC, threatening to shut outlets of over 200 billion naira debt. That's on news page 7. Reps summon petroleum minister, orders over fuel scarcity and nationwide pains. That's on news page 6. Reps NBA Falana Hariwa seek reversal of electricity tariff hike. News page 3. And on news page 4, Obi faults work on Lagos Calabar Highway amid protests. Operatives repel attack as terrorists abduct 4 in Katsina. And that's on news page 30. And finally, from the Guardian newspaper, Mayday, federal government approves salary increase for civil servants, and that's on Panorama page 2 of the Guardian newspaper.
Finally, let's look at the Punch newspaper. Federal government raises salaries of military, police, and others. Details on page 29 of the Punch newspaper. And this one says the Dangote refinery gets valid operating license soon. This is the federal government saying this. Well, they shouldn't delay his license, because this is something that will help Nigerians. Enough is enough. Enough of the fuel scarcity. The big story from the Punch newspaper, which is going to be the last, says Workers' Day. That's the kicker. Then the story says Labour laments rising food prices, fuel crisis. Two riders to that story. Reps, NLC, NBA, students reject electricity tariff hike, lament rising inflation. And the second one says accused wasn't gridlock. Commuters stranded, more vessels discharge PMS. If that is happening, then at least peace should return and more fuel should be available, as a matter of fact. And that's going to be the size of the headlines and the newspaper review this morning. Coming up next is going to be the big story after this break. Don't go nowhere.
Follow us on our social media handles at Oweleketv. Visit our website at www.oweleke.tv for a thrilling journey. Oweleketv, rising star at the fairground.
Welcome back from that break. It is still outnumbered live on your screen, and right here we want to bring to you the big story. Once again, Happy Workers' Day. We want to look at this story. NLC rejects 35% pay rise, insist on living wage. You know, they've been clamoring for the increment of minimum wage, but this increment, they are not okay. In almost all the papers, you hear federal government raises civil servant salary and all of that. But NLC is coming out to say, well, 35% upon all we've been struggling and clamoring for. Despite all we're going through, you're just increasing 35%. This pay rise is not enough for us. We still insist on living wage. And as a matter of fact, our committee yet to submit a report on minimum wage. Maybe when that report has been submitted, we will know what the federal government will do. And for Atiku to come out to say, well, it's a worst moment for workers in Nigeria. I don't know if that is political anyway, because he is more of an opposition. But what he's saying, if you look at it critically, you know, sometimes we need to weigh these statements. Let's not attach sentiments to it sometimes, because some of these statements are so valid and they are so on point looking at the situation and everything going on in the country at this very particular point in time. So I think the federal government, because some people who don't really deserve the money, they are the ones cutting away millions and billions, and that is the politicians. The people who are really doing the work to boost the economy of this nation are not getting a commensurate pay. If NLC is rejecting 35% pay rise, then I may be forced to say there is a strike coming soon. If nothing is being done, you know what NLC can do. So looking at this whole drama, I don't mind me. Most times, everything happening in Nigeria, I refer to it as drama because I feel someone is happy seeing all these things happen. In quote, I didn't mention anyone. So, Antonia, as it is right now, NLC rejecting 35 pay rise. Some person said, before we got up on air, someone said, is it a bump is better than have a loaf of bread?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think? Is this a good move, or you feel NLC is right?
So Ramsey, I feel the NLC rejecting the 35% increase. I think it's them insisting on what ought to be done, what is right that should be done. Because for years there have been talks. You can imagine the minimum wage was raised to 30,000 naira in 2019, and this is 2024. Inflation has risen consistently. It has been on a constant rise, and this has not been affected. And now you're coming up to increase with 35%. 35% would not cushion the effect of everything going on in the economy now. We still have queues in filling station where some stations sell a liter of petrol for 800 naira. There's still food scarcity. The price, there's food scarcity, and to even get the little available ones is still on the high side. So you see all of these things. I think there's another strike. I can perceive another strike action coming.
That's what I said.
And I hope it is one that is fruitful, not like the one that happened earlier this year when the NLC chairman came out to say they backed out of the second day of the protest due to intimidation and all of that. I just hope that all of this comes to, because today is Workers' Day. Not just the NLC, we're having in Nigeria, our doctors are moving out of the country because there's no welfare for workers. So I think all of these issues are things that the government needs to really sit down to do, because for our economy to grow, then there must be people who are working in the different sectors. And when you're working and you have nothing to show for it, not like you be amassing wealth or embezzling money, but when you are working, there should be evidence to show that you are being paid for the job that you are doing and your standard of living improves. But when that does not happen, you see the Jackpot syndrome on the rise. You see Nigerians trying to look for greener pastures, and then we'll have more capable hands. Nigerians are very intelligent people. So you see qualified people moving out of the country to seek greener pasture, because everybody will say, make an answer my name, make an go fight for myself and my family. No be me go carry Nigeria problem for head, and they would definitely leave. So when things like this continue to happen, you have cases of employing people that may not be qualified, and you start complaining about having half-baked graduates. So I feel workers should be compensated according to what they are doing. You should not treat workers badly or decide to leave their minimum wage to how you feel, or let's just increase it to 35%. In this case, half bread is not better than none.
All right, in this case, half bread is not better than none. Well, some state governors are doing beautifully well, increasing salaries and wages. But then I wonder why the federal government is finding it very difficult to increase minimum wage. 35% pay rise. Is that all the federal government can do for workers on Workers' Day? Well, NLC said they don't want that, and of course insist on a living wage. That is what is important at this very particular point in time, and it is very necessary for the federal government to know that workers contribute to economic growth in every nation and therefore should not be taken for granted. This is going to be the size of the big story on Outnumbered today. Thank you for keeping a date with us. Thank you, Antonia, for that analysis. And all of you, I want to wish you happy Workers' Day once again. We'll come on your way same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Ramsey Enoch. Bye-bye for now.